Good evening, crafting friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Simply Stamping Sunday on this beautiful Sunday. Well, it turned to be a beautiful day. I know we woke up to a lot of rain this morning, which I think most of New England did, but it has turned into a beautiful afternoon, and I'm excited to be here. So this is week 2 for Spotlight on Nature. Last week I did add the Unbounded Love stamp set for some words, but we're just going to use what's in here this week. And this week we're going to be adding some designer series paper to give it some interest, in some cases some texture, and to just add a brightness of color to this outline type of set. So let me just put that aside, and this is our first card for tonight. Put that aside too. In this card, we're going to make a color block background using the 2024 to 2026 In Color designer series paper. So, again, So, for cardstock for this card, you are going to need a half a sheet, which is 8.5 by 5.5 sheet of thick white cardstock. Okay, there we go. And then for our background, you are going to need a piece, I'm using the Peach Pie color, a piece of 2 inches by 5 1/4, and then a piece 2 inches by 3 inches, and then a piece that measures 2 inches by 2 1/4 inches. And so that makes our color block background. So let's get some adhesive and adhere this all down. Using different patterns of designer series paper, usually from the same color family, helps make it just gives a nice look to your card and gives it some pop in the background. So this piece here is the Summer Splash, and this here is the Shy Shamrock. And then I decided to use the Summer Splash ink as the ink for the card. So really easy to put together, and it's very striking. So now for the stamping, I have here a 2 by 4 piece of basic white cardstock, and I have a piece of 2 1/8 by 4 1/8 Summer Splash cardstock. So I am going to take the Summer Splash ink, and I am going to be stamping the leaves. So I made this piece of cardstock. I cut it just a little larger than the stamp, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit so that we have room for the thank you or the thanks at the bottom. So there's that, and then I'm going to use the thanks from the set. That's going to go to the bottom. And that is all we need to put together this gorgeous card. You don't need a lot of supplies. Just cardstock, stamps, and ink. And you can make some beautiful creations that you will be very proud to give out. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back to adhere this to the front. I like to put one in the middle just to give it some support. And I'm going to center this so it goes right over that center line. You could cut your pieces into any shape, I guess I don't want to say shape, any dimension, and you could have as many as you'd like on the card to do color blocking. But I like doing it with this just looks a little crooked. I like doing, using an odd number, that rule of 3. And there we go. There's our first card for tonight. Let me put that aside and let's go to our second card. We have a lot of paper scraps here that we're going to be using. So this is our second card. Another way that you can add color to your stamped images when you have an aligned stamp set is by using a colored ink to stamp the main image and then stamping, in this case, the flowers on a piece of designer series paper and then cutting them out and adding them to the spot where they should be. So that's what we did with this card. So let me show you how we did that. Okay, this is just to do some stamping. I have already cut out the flowers, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to make them because I did it a little differently than I did in my sample. So I have here a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of thick basic white cardstock. I then have a piece of Heather Highland cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I have a piece of basic white that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and this is just going to go on top of this piece of cardstock. When you add cardstock, colored cardstock, or designer series paper to your designs, it really makes them pop and become alive. So that is one way to just up the ante on your card making, especially if you're a beginner. It's just a way to really go from very simple to a little more sophisticated. So then the next part that I'm going to do is I've got these 2 pieces of designer series paper. This one here, I just want to get the measurement correct. I believe this one is 3 3/4 by 3, and this is 3 3/4 by 2 inches. So this one is 3, this one is 2. That's how we get our 5. So I'm just going to add these designer series paper layers to the front of my card. So I guess you could say this is even another way of doing color blocking. So I just want to make sure it's even, that I align it. I'm going to actually bring it up a little bit because I put the first one on a little low, so I want them to be even. And that's okay because I'm also adding this piece here to the front of my Heather that measures 3/4 of an inch by 3 3/4 of an inch. And my plan was to cover up that seam, but you can also see how it works nicely to cover up if you have to separate the 2 pieces a bit. So I'm going to add that right there to the front of my card. Now the front of the card is pretty well made, so I'm going to just set that aside, and I'm going to get out my old olive green ink, and I'm going to stamp up, going to ink up my floral image. And I am going to stamp this right on the front. Again, I cut this piece of cardstock just a little bigger than the stamp so that it would fit and take up the whole space. I'm going to be using the thanks again, and I can never have too many thank you cards. And this time I'm going to use the Gorgeous Grape. I think that's what I picked. Yes, Gorgeous Grape. There we go. So the first part of our stamping is done. Now on the sample I showed you at the beginning, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, I stamped in Gorgeous Grape onto the into the Designer Series paper. And I used it, but I was thinking, boy, you just don't really see the detail very much. So then I stamped it in Basic Black, in the Memento Black. And I think you can see the dimension and all the extras of the stamp better. So all I did was I first cleaned my stamp. So let me just get my cleaning pad out, and I'm just going to clean off that ink. And while I'm at it, I'm going to clean off the ink of this one. And when I go to, so I'm going to just put this aside along with the pieces. When I go to stamp on this piece, I only need to ink up the florals. So I don't need to ink the whole thing. But I want all of the flowers inked up so that I can fussy cut those out. So when I bring this over, I'm just going to stamp that part, and you can see how nicely the image shows up. Now, the next step is to cut those 3 flowers out, which I've already done. So let's just move that ink pad out of the way. When I'm putting little pieces on like this and they have to fit precisely where I want them to, I use the liquid glue because I have a little bit of movement afterwards that I can take care of with being able to move it with the liquid glue on it, so I can get it in place. But the glue doesn't want to come out tonight. There we go. I'm getting to the end of that bottle. So now I'm going to line this right up with the stamped image and then go to my next flower. Now adding just this little layer of extra paper also brings, it also, let's just see, I think I've got something stuck in there. It also brings a little texture to the card as well. Okay, let's try this. Oh, we've got the glue coming now. A little too much, but it will dry clear. Okay, there we go with our second flower. We don't need a lot on this next one. And isn't that great the way it now looks? Oops, went too far, sorry. You just got, this beautiful colored image. Okay, so now this is going to go on the Highland Heather cardstock, and then we're just going to center this right on the front of the card. So I'm just going to add some dimensionals again. give it just a little bit of a raised surface. Come back to my card, and it's ready to go. One thing that I think about when I'm adding a strip of cardstock across the middle, or doing a layout like this, is I try not to make it right in the middle of the cardstock. So you'll notice I went up a little higher on this one. Okay, so I am going to layer this on, and that card is done. Look at that, in 16 minutes we've made 2 beautiful cards. All right, the third card, I have to say, is my favorite of the evening. So this is the third card. Here I am adding a lot of color with the Designer Series paper. So I'm adding some of the deep purples with the Blackberry Bliss, some of the greens, the deep greens with the Mellow Moss. So I'm going straight for this, I'm going straight for our neutrals family. So let's get started with this one. One of our new basic type of cardstocks is our basic beige. So don't forget about that, because it is just such a great cardstock to use in your card making. I adore it. I really do. It's so pretty. And with this, one of the things you want to, you just want to remember to not always just use basic white. So tonight I used basic white on 2 of them, but then I'm using the basic beige. So you want to have a little bit of extra stuff. So let me get the Blackberry Bliss ink. I'm going to do some stamping first. So this piece of basic beige is 8.5 by 5.5 inches. And then I've got a piece for the inside of the card, and this is a piece of basic white that measures 4 by 5.25. And I'm going to stamp this beautiful butterfly right inside. And then we're going to add this piece to the inside of our card. All right, that part's done. Next, I'm going to stamp the butterfly one more time on a piece of scrap paper. And I'm going to be cutting that out, but I'm not going to cut the body and the antenna out, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So that part's all done. We have our stamped sentiment. This is just a scrap. It is 3/4 of an inch wide, and it's 2.5 long. I don't need it to be that long, but I know that I want it to stamp and then cut. So I'm going to stamp over to the edge. And then I'm just going to take my paper snips and I'm going to trim off the end. Just like that. Okay, that part is done. Now for the main stamping. I am going to take the leaves and I'm stamping an old olive. That's not what I want. I want mossy meadow. So let me just switch that, clean it again. And get out the mossy meadow. There we go. So I think I just stamped that in Old Olive, my friend, and I think that will be okay. I might turn it over, we'll see, or get another piece of paper. So I'm going to have this going a little bit over to the left, because I'm going to be stamping the butterfly again at the top. So let's move that aside, get our butterfly stamp again. And I want the butterfly to fit right in here. So it looks like it's landing right on the leaf. All right. Now I'm going to do some layering. So this piece here, I've got it right over here, so let me just read it off. This piece here measures 2 1/4 by 3 1/2, and of the white, and then I go up 1/4 inch for each one. So the Blackberry Bliss measures 2 1/2 by 3 3/4, and then the Mellow Moss, or the Mossy Meadow, measures 2 3/4 by 4. So we're just going to layer these on top of each other. Okay, I cut this one wrong. No, it's 2 1/2 by 4. It's supposed to be 2 1/2. Oh, it's supposed to be 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. So let's take some of this off. Made a little mistake there. I think what I did is I stamped the butterfly on the piece I was supposed to use. So we have, let's take 1/4 inch off right here. There we go. And we'll take a little bit off the bottom too. So this is going to be, let's see if this is enough. Yeah, this was my scrap paper to do my Stampin' on, and I still don't have enough off the top and the bottom. All right. You know, that's why I keep my paper cutter really close to my desk. Okay, this fits on much nicer. And then this is going to go right onto this piece here. And again, we're going to use dimensionals on the back, so we'll get those on right now before we go on to the rest. I use a lot of dimensionals. I really like using that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the butterfly with dimensionals to pop it up. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to pop it up, but I'm going to move it over a little bit to give the wings a little bit of movement. I want it to look like the butterfly is flying. And that's why I didn't try to cut out the body. I hardly ever try to cut out the antenna. I usually stamp underneath so that will show. But by having this tilt just a little bit, you see those wings. Can you see how it looks like it's flapping away? It just gives it the illusion of movement. Okay, I do want to take this dear friend and stamp it again. I'm just going to get rid of that little edge. My card, my cutter mix sometimes, and I'm going to take my dear friend, and I don't have as much room to make sure it's perfect, but we'll go for it. Yep, that's good enough. We'll have the right colors now. Now, to finish up the card, I have a piece of the Blackberry Bliss. It's the same piece as the Mossy Meadow piece here that measures 1 inch by 5 1/2 inches. And I am going to, which way do I want it, like this? I'm going to put this piece right across the bottom, leaving a little bit of an edge. So, here goes. And so this one measured, like I said, 5 1/2, 2 1/2 by 5 1/2, and this measures 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. I just love this year's color assortments of DSP. They are just beautiful. All right, so that's all done. So now I'm going to just put this on the front of the cardstock, and I am going to place it sort of in the middle. It doesn't have to be in the middle, but for this one, this card, because the tag is going to take up so much room, it is a good idea to have this more centrally situated. So let me take that off, and then I can place this. I want to be able to see that designer series paper, so I can place that there. And then I'm going to take my dear friend stamp, and I'm going to just trim it a little bit more. So I moved that over just a wee bit closer than I did in the other one. But all we need to do is take off a little bit of that, and then there's room to add my dear friend. Let's take a look at what we created tonight before I say goodnight. Our first card that we made was done with color blocking. In our second card, we did a technique called paper piecing, where we stamped on the designer series paper and then cut it out, fussy cut it out. And then my final card used cutouts and dimensional designer series paper to really pop the card. So that's it for this week's edition of Simply Stamping Sunday. Next Sunday is Father's Day, and I took Mother's Day off, so I'm going to take Father's Day off as well. And so there will be no presentation of Simply Stamping Sunday. And if you watched my Funfold Friday video, you heard that I'm having surgery this Wednesday, and I am going to be trying my best to post as many videos as I can, and I'm ready to do some of my some of my Funfold Fridays, but I'm not quite ready to do my Simply Stamping Sundays. So I may be back the following week with a recording, or I might not, based on how I'm feeling and how everything goes. But thank you so much for joining me tonight in my live, and I hope you enjoyed this card. Definitely my favorite is this one. I just love the color combination. Do you have a favorite? Let me know in the comments. And take care, everyone. Have a great week, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Good night.